Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Sunrise on the Inside podcast, a space where we share inspiring interviews and stories from thoughtful leaders in business, health and wellness, entrepreneurship and sports. Here we talk about tools, habits, routines and tactics they use that help them feel calm, revived and rebalanced whenever they face challenges in life. I'm your host, Nico Estrella, a serial entrepreneur, former professional soccer player and co-founder of Waku. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Sunrise on the Inside podcast. My guest today is Lauren Abda, the founder and CEO of Branchfood, the largest community of food entrepreneurs and startups in New England, and co-founder at Branch Venture Group, an angel network for investment in early-stage food startups. Lauren has a master's in food policy and applied nutrition from the Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy, and a Bachelor of Science degree in nutrition and food science from the University of Vermont. Lauren has been very influential in our journey as a company with Waku, as Branch Venture Group was the first angel investment group that believed in our team and idea back in 2018, and they became investors of Waku. In today's episode, we talk about her story on how she started Branchfood. She also shares tips on how we can build a network and relationships as an introvert person, and how to make hard decisions by looking at the worst case scenario face to face. Hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, everyone. I am super excited for this podcast episode. We have a very good friend of us, of Waku, probably one of the most influential persons that we've met in our journey as Waku is Lauren Abda. Welcome, Lauren, to the show.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, and congratulations on launching this exciting podcast.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a project that we've been wanting to do for a while. I personally really enjoy always talking with amazing people as you. So this is just like, for me, it's like an excuse to be able to talk with great people. So thank you so much for taking the interview. So Lauren, to start, I think I would love to start talking a little bit about your, I would call like fascination for food. I follow you on social media. I follow you on Instagram, and I love always the pictures that you upload about just like the food you're eating, or the restaurants you're going, or the things that you're cooking, and it's always amazing food. I think I would call you a foodie. I wanted to ask you, have you been always like super into food, like personally?
Yeah, it's always been an area of interest for me personally. I come from a family that has strong food roots. My dad is Lebanese. And so growing up, our food was always a little bit different from the average American meal. We would have, hummus and baba ganoush and tabbouleh and kibbeh and all of these really, kind of unique dishes that were, native to kind of the Lebanese community. And so I think it always stood out to me as just a unique part of who I am as a person. And I really gravitated towards that kind of aspect of my family. Growing up as well, my mom was really interested in food. She, was very interested in natural health and natural types of food and organic food, and the ability to treat disease with plant-based diet, and the impact that food can have on our bodies and our health and our life. And so through her influence and through my dad's influence, I think food has always been just a huge area of interest, curiosity, and opportunity for me that I've now transitioned into my professional life, and prior to that, my formal education. So yes, big foodie, and excited to be in this industry as well. I think it's one of the best industries to build a career in.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I was going to ask you, do you have any specific, like a favorite type of cuisine, or it's too much of a hard pick?
Well, I think the one that's probably the most heartwarming and nostalgic for me is Lebanese cuisine because I grew up with it. But I don't know if I had to say today, I've really loved this like explosion of Mexican cuisine and tacos and margaritas, and it seems to be the hospitality focus of the day. And so I've been spending a lot of time exploring that cuisine and feel like there's just it's endless in terms of what's possible and the unique types of ingredients and all of that. So yeah, I think that that's right now one of the most interesting cuisines to me.
Yeah, it's I really like Mexican food. Here in Boston, I found like a couple good restaurants, but recently I visited California, and the Mexican food there in California was out of this world. It was just like amazing, amazing, amazing food.
Yeah, the concentration of community there is much larger than I think what we have in Boston. Here, there are certainly some great restaurants. I've spent a large part of this year actually down in Florida, and the cuisine in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, was just delicious, and I think that's probably what inspired my current interest in it. But yeah, it just seems like such bright flavors, really fresh food. Traditionally, it is a very healthy kind of cuisine, and so it's been really fun just exploring that and becoming more familiar with all of those, like I said, ingredients.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, okay, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more after about like the story of how you started Branch Food. I would love to learn a little bit more about that story. But first, I wanted to ask you. So, you come from a family, as you said, like your mom, your dad, like food was super important in your life whenever you were growing up. Um, did you always know that you wanted to build your career in the food industry? Like whenever you went to college, you already knew that it was something that you wanted to do, or when did you realize that you wanted to pursue that as a career and be part of the food industry?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't think to answer it in a very short, quick way, no, I don't think I always knew that I wanted to be in the food industry, but I think over time, my interests have kind of landed me here. And so, interestingly, my formal education is actually in science, food policy, regulation. I ended up doing some work in international trade, working at the World Trade Organization after I graduated from grad school, and kind of looked at these different areas of kind of the private sector really, but realized that I think my interest in food was ultimately what was driving that just kind of curiosity in science, in policy, in international trade. And so kind of learned all of those different areas of food. And I think today, where I've landed in terms of working with startups and innovators and people that are trying to improve the industry, was a result of realizing across those different areas that there's so much opportunity in food. There's so much opportunity to kind of convert our food system to be one that's more sustainable, environmentally friendly, healthier for the planet, healthier for people. But how do we do that? And ultimately, I think through other experiences I've had and exposure to startups and entrepreneurship, really felt like that was a powerful kind of thing to leverage for change in the industry, positive change in the industry. And so that led me to founding Branch Food and Branch Venture Group and Food Edge and the businesses that I run today.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's super interesting, and I think so. Then I know that you went to Tufts, right? Did you grow up here in the Boston area?
No, so I'm a Pennsylvania native. Then I went to Vermont for undergrad, and then I moved to Boston for graduate school. And I've been here now for a little over 10 years. I've tried to leave on numerous occasions, but I can't. I can't do it. It won't let me. I just keep like slingshotting back, and so I feel like a Bostonian today. So I'm here for the long haul.
I think I can empathize with that. Yeah, I'm starting to feel like a Bostonian. Yeah. Yeah, I've been already 3 years here. And at some point, I was thinking of moving to New York,
Hmm.
but now I'm super happy here in
Yeah.
yeah.
It
And
has a certain charm and history and community that are kind of hard to leave behind once you've been here. And a colleague of mine said it once. She said something once that always stayed with me. She was like, "It takes so long to learn how to navigate this small town that the need to have to figure out how to navigate new towns is like so scary and so overwhelming that that's why people don't leave Boston." And it kind of resonated with me. I was like, yeah, you're right. Learning how to drive around here, I still have to put on Google Maps. So, but it's a lovely place. Harsh winters, but the summers certainly make up for it.
yeah, no, I totally agree. And so then, when you were graduating from Tufts, what was your inspiration to start Branchfood? Like, what do you think was what generated the idea to start this group of restaurants and the food industry and beverage companies and if you can also give a little bit of background of what is Branchfood to the people that's listening.
Yeah, so in terms of our origin story, I think that it has its roots, started to take root, I would say, when I was in graduate school. So came to Boston for grad school, got my master's in food policy and applied nutrition at Tufts. Uh, really started again to learn kind of what the inefficiencies in the food system are, where there are opportunities for innovation and improvement. At the time, I had actually got an internship with Techstars, the Startup Accelerator program. And I don't know why they took me. I was a food policy student. I was not a business student. I had no experience, with early stage companies, but for some reason they welcomed me in as an intern. And that was really my first exposure to startups and entrepreneurship as a method of change, and really felt like that was possible for the food industry to start working with companies, or creating an idea of my own that I could work on a problem that I may have discovered that I knew could be a really a solution for change. And so became kind of interested in the intersection of food policy, entrepreneurship, and where there, started to look around to see where there are opportunities for innovation. After I graduated from grad school, though, I, like every good graduate does, put myself on the market and ended up getting a job with, as I mentioned, with the World Trade Organization, working in international food policy. I was writing reports on food safety development initiatives that were happening in some of the WTO's member countries, which gave me exposure to projects around the world, which was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity. I lived in Switzerland, ate way too much chocolate, learned all about, agriculture and commodities. But, I think I had this still kind of interest in entrepreneurship and innovation. And there wasn't really a startup scene in Geneva at the time, but I was, kind of in touch with what was going on here in Boston, and kept getting, the newsletters from Bostino and hearing about friends of mine that were starting these interesting companies in different sectors and industries, and decided to come back here at the beginning of 2013. Got a job with a tech company to pay my bills, living in the city, and ended up starting a meetup group on meetup.com, which was a more popular platform back in the day than it is today. But really, it was, I wanted to get a job with a food company. I couldn't really find one that I could work with, but I felt like, well, maybe I should just start this networking group. And if I can't find something, then maybe I'll bring people to me. And through that, I'll, find an opportunity or, startup to work with. And so I started just hosting these drinks meetups at bars around town between Cambridge and Boston. And the group and community started to grow. We were hosting, then events in collaboration with other organizations like the MIT Enterprise Forum, General Assembly, different, food and ag groups at universities locally, and really just, kind of organically started to grow and into the, hundreds of people that would attend and were part of the group. And we kind of hit an inflection point. I was really, tried to stay very connected to what people wanted out of the group. So we were doing these drinks meetups and the networking was helpful, but like, what more did people want? What more did people need? And one of the suggestions was a space for people to collaborate. And so at the time, I approached the CIC, the Cambridge Innovation Center, the co-working company that started in Kendall Square back in 1999. And I said, we have this really, burgeoning food community. We'd love a space for these people to be able to work and network and collaborate and, kind of envision helpful businesses that can impact future food positively. And can we have some space to be able to experiment with community growth? And again, I don't know why they did, but they said, sure, we'll give you 1,000 square feet in our downtown Boston location at 50 Milk Street and play and see what you can do and see what you can build. And so we took up residence there back in 2015 and have never left. We're still there. And, today, fast forward to today, Branchfood's mission is really to forge a globally connected community of innovators that will create the future of food. We work to build products for that community to help facilitate knowledge and connection industry-wide for stakeholders that seek to build a better food industry. We have our workspace. We continue to do virtual now programming where people can connect and share and learn. And then along the way, we also launched because we felt like we were identifying not only entrepreneurs, but exciting investment opportunities whereby we could start capitalizing on some of this activity more so than we could at Branch Food. And in collaboration with my partner, Marcia Hooper, founded Branch Venture Group, which is now an angel investment network dedicated to investment in food startups across consumer products, food tech, and ag tech. And so I've stayed in the early stage, food space. It's been, kind of a really interesting last 6 years of growing this community and building products that help, facilitate connectivity within it. But the future is bright, and I think if anything, the time is now for change and for entrepreneurs and for innovators to really pursue their business ideas. And Branch Food and Branch Venture Group want to be an integral part of helping them see their visions through.
I love that story, and I really love how organically it started and how it kept evolving. So I have a couple follow up questions from that, and the first one is, so at this point where you were creating all the meetup groups, first I think that's such an amazing initiative to just because I've experienced that here in Boston it's not that easy to connect with a lot of people. I think it takes a little bit of work to get into the communities and get into just get to know more people and whatnot. It's not that easy. So it's such an amazing idea that just starting doing those meetups. And I think from knowing you, I think one of your superpowers is to be just like a super connector, just putting together people and being great at networking. Have you been always like that? Have you been always being good at connecting people, or is it something that you learned how to be?
I don't think it comes naturally to me, actually. I, didn't. I kind of grew up as a shy child. I didn't, I don't even now today think of myself as particularly outgoing. I think the extroverted skills I have been nurtured over time. I think I'm inherently an introvert, but I think I just you see a lot of first see a lot of companies and see a lot of ideas and see things that kind of take shape given the nature of what I do now, and can't help but kind of put those people together with others that I know can help really support their businesses. And I think it's truly that, the seed and the kernel really of Branch Food is, finding other people that can help support you in your goals and in your idea creation and your, business development efforts. And I think, yeah, the like I was saying before, just the different products we've created over the years have helped facilitate that. But the spirit really is, community development. It's sharing. It's the spirit of knowledge seeking and wanting to connect with others that you can collaborate with. And I think that that's such a important thing to keep alive. And I've worked really hard over the years to make sure that that's at the core of everything we do at Branchfood and Branch Venture Group. Um, you know, there is no ego here. Ask the questions that you need help with. Be willing to reach out, be willing to be wrong, be willing to ask, the questions. And ultimately, I think you'll end up in a better place as an entrepreneur and with a stronger business if you're willing to do that.
So for how, what would you recommend to someone that it's like not very outgoing? Because I know that, and I count myself into this group. For me, it's also not that easy to go to networking events and just like I am not that extroverted, so it doesn't come naturally to me. But what do you think can be something that can help you in these type of situations? Like how can you become better at not only networking, I would say, because probably networking can be a word that can just like be thought as just like network professionally networking, but in general I think just like it's super useful to be able to know how to build relationships and build your community and in any space you are in. So what do you think it's like a good starting point for someone that's more like introverted? Like what would you recommend to do for someone that wants to be better at that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in reflection of, how I've just seen communities come together and evolve and people build relationships, I think it really requires two things. First, curiosity. So you have to be curious if you want to create a connection. You have to ask questions and listen and learn and kind of iterate and discuss. And I think that that's such an important part of understanding someone and seeing someone and realizing opportunity. I think the next thing is really being a value add without expecting to get anything in return. And I think that that's been probably one of the things that's, been a silver bullet, for me personally, just in business development. I try to always lead with what can I give to you and what can I offer you and how can I help you without, keeping track or keeping score or, really making sure that I'm getting something in return. I think this idea of abundance and being in the mindset of wanting to give has only contributed to the growth of Branch over the years. And the model, and I know you're going to ask me a question about what's been challenging about what I've done. I think the model of that has been challenging, but it's sort of like I so identify personally with the spirit of that I think the model has come along in the meantime. And I would say that those are the two things those are two pieces of advice I would give anyone that's trying to, grow their network or increase their network is, how do you get curious and offer value?
I think that's super valuable. Yeah, I think thank you for those tips because I think like personally with my friends and with my family, I tend to be like that. I tend to be like always, how can I help them, or very interested in like their lives and very curious about them. But sometimes there is this disconnect whenever I feel I go to a networking event, for example. Sometimes I have this idea that these relationships that I am making there are very can be seen like a very superficial or very like I won't say monetary, but like very
like transactional.
transactional. No, thank you. That was the word that I was looking for. But I do think that on the times that I've been to these events, like if it doesn't take for you to talk with 30 people in that event.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you make one or two very valuable new connections, it's super worth it. So I think that the key for that is what you just said, is like every conversation that you start in one of these events, really being super genuine and being super curious with to get to know that other person. I think that's a very good thing. Thank you for that.
For sure.
Hey, just a quick pause for a message from Waku, and we will be right back to the interview. We are very excited to let everyone know we've just launched Waku's crowdfunding equity campaign through Republic, a platform that allows anyone to invest in private startups like Waku. Waku is now part of a very exclusive group of highly vetted startups from Republic, and now you can become an investor of Waku starting with investments as small as $100. If you'd like to learn more about why to invest in Waku and why this is such a great investment opportunity, you can go to republic.co/Waku. That's republic.co/WAKU. We will be thrilled to have you join us in our journey to bring to the world the most refreshing herbal tea with gut health benefits and help to create impact in the livelihoods of hundreds of Ecuadorian farmers. Let's get back to the show. Um, so then, a follow-up question on the story of Branchfood that I had was, so at this point where you were making all these events, because I know that you were talking about the model and the business model. Um, was there any specific thing that made you think, okay, this can be a business, or this can be something more structured than just like meetup events? Was there anything in particular that you can remember that like pushed you through the edge, so to speak?
So I think that it wasn't necessarily the opportunity that I saw. I think that it was the necessity to make money to pay my bills. So I, prior to being full time with Branch Food, I, had a number of different jobs, and I had like 4 jobs at one time, and I was just kind of, burning the candle at both ends, as they say. But I remember I hosted a series of events that I was able to get sponsored as well as sell tickets for, and it gave me the all of these events collectively netted me $10,000, and that combined with like a little bit of savings that I had, again not very much, was just enough to kind of quit my jobs and take that first step into, okay, I have, I could subsist on this for a couple of months and really try to build a model and try to build, something that would sustain me for longer than just a couple of months. And so that was really my first, kind of step into Branchfood full time. And yeah, it was definitely a leap of faith, but allowed me to just, kind of take that leap of faith. From there, it was truly figuring out, what is the model here? How do I make money? How does this, business grow? Is this a business? Is this sustainable? And, you know, again, trying to figure out, okay, well, what are the products that we have? What are the needs of the community? How do we build something that's not just a one-time payment? How do we think about subscription? How do we think about membership? What value can we provide for all of that? So it was really, trying on different futures for size and seeing, what resonated with people, what didn't resonate, doing a lot of customer interviews, customer research, and figuring out what it really was that resonated and was value add. And so, yeah, it wasn't quite, that light bulb moment. It was more kind of research and um, needing to figure out how to make money so that I can keep doing this work, because I loved doing this work, but needed to build a model to be able to sustain, and again, not only myself, but like a team of people to continue doing this work. So yeah, that took some time for sure.
That's amazing, and I think it can be very scary, like taking that leap of faith and quitting your jobs that you had multiple jobs. I didn't know that. were you scared at that moment whenever you were quitting everything? Uh,
I don't know if it was. I don't know if I was scared. I think I was just more like hopeful and just, but felt like the urgency of needing to figure it out. Right? Like I think I knew that I knew I wanted to be in this space. I knew there were indicators that I should be in this space. Doors were opening, doors weren't closing. I had the event lineup. I had, a little bit of money in my pocket. And I think from there, it was just like, okay, I'm going to try this. And I also have, you know, thankfully very supportive people around me that were, encouraging. Lauren, if all else fails, you could sleep on my couch for a week. So I had a bit of a safety net of people that were, family and friends that if all else failed, I can go nurse my wounds and get back out there and get a job. But yeah, I think it's, you know, I think that at the time I was really, I knew I had a lot of energy for something. I didn't quite know what that was long term, but I had a little bit of leeway to play around with it and figure out what it was. And, again, that was back in 2015. And so it's worked out so far. It's worked out so far.
I
And so
love.
that leap of faith was worth it.
So for someone that, let's say right now it's in that same point that you were in 2015, that you kind of like have the idea, we're not that sure about it, and you have to quit your job. And I know that maybe someone that's listening, it's in that point of like, okay, should I go all in? Should I just like commit to this idea? Um, how do you think it's something, or what do you think it's something they can do to help them um, take that step? Because I think always this first step can feel like the most difficult one, because then you start to figure out the things as you go. But for you, what do you think was something that helped you, and what can you say to someone that's in the same spot?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of power to be gained in looking worst case scenario in the face and figuring out, okay, what what is the worst case scenario of this, of this chance, of this leap of faith, of this thing I want to do, right? Maybe it fails and it doesn't work and, you're out how much money that you've spent on it and, you've got to get another job. Maybe worst case scenario is worse than that. Maybe it's not as bad as that, but figuring out where that uncertainty and where that concern and where that fear lives, I think is helpful to just, write it down, talk about it out loud, find a trusted source that you could just bounce this off of and look at it and see, because oftentimes it's actually not as bad as you think it is. And then I think you go into risk mitigation mode. And I think it's like, okay, well, if that's worst case scenario, then how do I reduce the likelihood of those things actually happening? And in this like schema of decision making, how do I make sure that I don't get to that point? And if I do get to that point, like what's my next move? And so just doing some of that, I think scenario planning or, future proofing, predictions, I think has helped me in the past just kind of navigate and make decisions and having a plan, I think is a lot more helpful than just, kind of going at it full throttle with hopes and dreams and not actually having those, plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. I think you always have to have a sense of what those are. And ultimately, I think that helps you take that then first step. Um, we don't know, of course, what will happen in the future, and the best thing we can do is use the information at hand to kind of make that first move. But then that second move, you'll have more information, and it will continue to build, and things will continue to change and evolve over time. And so, yeah, I think scenario planning and risk mitigation and looking, that worst case scenario in the face are the best ways to kind of move forward.
I love that. Yeah, no, I totally agree, because I think also for me was a very similar thing. I saw at some point like doing a fear setting exercise and really like listing what are the things that you are scared of whenever you are in a moment like this.
Mhm.
So I really agree with everything that you just said, and it's true. It's like a lot of times it's just like the worst case scenario. It's something that's totally doable. Like for example, for in my case, whenever we were thinking in starting Waku, I had another job back there in Ecuador, and it was like a very good paying job. I was living super comfortable in Ecuador. You like with a good salary, you can have a very comfortable way of living. Um, so it was a bit scary at the beginning, just like to come to a new city, a new country where I didn't know a
Mhm.
lot of people. I just knew Juan, that he was here, my business partner. He was here in Boston, but other than him, I didn't know anyone here in Boston. My English was not as great as it is right now. I knew how to speak, but not like as fluently. So it was scary at the beginning. So yeah, like doing this worst case scenario was like, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? And in that case, was like, okay, the idea never takes off, and I just visited Boston, and I just like got to know a new city and hopefully made some new friends. And worst case scenario, just like have this amazing experience. And I knew, like, fortunately as well, I knew that I had like kind of like a safety net back there in Ecuador. That
Mhm.
I knew that like worst case scenario for me was just like moving back with my parents for a little bit and finding another job. And I like built my network enough back there in Ecuador that I knew that maybe it was gonna take a little bit longer to find a new job, but I knew it was not gonna be impossible. It was just like I was not gonna die. Basically, it's just like worst case scenario, just like go back home and
Yeah.
that's it. So yeah, I really love that. Thank you for sharing that, Lauren.
Yeah, it takes, a lot of courage, a lot of bravery, a lot of humility to make moves like that and to do career changes and, to try something new. But, we only have one life. And so you got to live it. And if you're bored, like get out there, do something else, do something new, do something exciting. Um, there's a lot of people out there that want to help you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you just said, Lauren. Whenever I was coming here to Boston, because it's like you never know, like until you really live the thing, you can't know how is it gonna be like. And I don't know why I had like this idea that Boston was gonna be a very hard city to live in. I just like talked with maybe a couple of friends that they told me like their experiences here, and they were like not as great.
Mhm.
And I think I came with this kind of like I'm not sure if it's like scared idea or like I think I had a lot of like maybe it can be said like an imposter syndrome, or like whenever I arrived I thought like well, like people here in Boston, like you meet so much amazing people, super smart people everywhere you go. And I didn't have like a lot of stamps or a lot of like titles. I didn't go to grad school here in
Mhm.
Boston. So I think at the beginning I was like feeling like, oh, I'm like maybe no one's gonna just like want to talk to me at the beginning, because it's like what do I have to offer? But then I started to realize first that a lot of more people than what you think of is gonna try to help you, and we found that all along the way, like the Waku story, that everywhere we go, we always find if you are genuine enough and you're, as you said, like you're humble enough to like show the things that you don't know. There are a lot of things that you don't know, but also um, seeing yourself as like you always will have something to add to the conversation, like your
Mhm.
uniqueness and everybody has some superpower and some good thing that you can add to the conversation. You can bring even if you don't have like all the titles in the world or whatever. So I think that what you said it's key as well, like trusting in people. Like you know that at least in my experience you will always find people that want to guide you. And
Mhm.
I found a lot of that here in Boston, and we didn't know how to speak with investors. We didn't know. at the beginning we didn't even know how to bring products from Ecuador to here. So just like by asking questions to people, and just like sometimes it's just like scary. Like the worst thing that can happen is that whenever you ask somebody a question that they just don't answer the email, and you're good. So just like throwing the questions out there, we realize people just like is happy to help, and if they can introduce, like we got introduced to the customs agent that helped us with all the permits and all that through another entrepreneur that was bringing products from Ecuador to here. So I think that what you said, it's key, and I think for us, I don't know how you feel about it, but that also takes a little bit of the pressure of like you are not doing it yourself. It's like
Mm-hmm.
not you, Lauren, against the world, or me, Nico, against the world. It's just like you can build that community around whatever you are doing that is gonna help you along the way. So that's why I really love what you do with Branchfood, because that's where you see like this power of community, and the power of like people trying to help other people. Yeah, it's an amazing concept, and that's why I really love what you do at Branchfood.
Well, thank you. And it's interesting. I think, Boston, to me, it has a special kind of spirit to it. And I think that it has a lot to do with the academic institutions here. Um, that kind of spirit of learning and connecting and, talking to people that can help, you understand or support you and your goals kind of bleeds out into at least the startup ecosystem here. And so, it's more horizontal than I think it is vertical, in terms of your ability to connect and reach out and have people get back to you and want to help you. And and so I think that that's one of the most enjoyable things that I've discovered about living here. I agree with you. It is a little bit siloed when it comes to, the universities or, where you are at in your career and the industry and the companies. But I think in the startup realm, at the very least, no shortage of support, willingness to help, and people really wanting to spend their time, outside of their day job, supporting others and getting excited about, external projects. Everybody has a side hustle today. And I think that there's a lot of people that, maybe bored at their jobs or, just want to get involved in an exciting, compelling opportunity that are willing to lend their time and lend their support and feedback as well. So,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And then one question that maybe will come up with any answer. If not, that's okay. Do you have any side hustle right now other than Branchfood, or Branchfood is taking over the 100% of your time?
well, my side hustle right now is making my current place an actual living space. I just moved into a new apartment. So there's that. But I don't know. I've gone in and out of playing the piano over the years. So it may not be a side hustle, but it's certainly a hobby that I've become more and less interested in, and is a way to just sort of distract me. And I think very much connected to the inspiration for this podcast, in terms of how do we find peace? How do we find tranquility in this crazy world? That for me has been one of the helpful things over the years, is just music getting out of my head, getting into my fingers, and trying to distract myself from the ever present notifications and emails and messages and things coming through my phone at all times.
How often do you play the piano right now?
So I'm well, I mean, these days I listen to piano music more than I actually play it myself. But I am in the market for a used piano. So if anyone out there can let me know if you have one, I can take off your hands. I'd love to know it. But no, I take lessons when I can. I try to keep up with the ability to do that. But a lot of the universities locally actually have kind of open studios where you, as a community member or an alumni, can go in and use the pianos. So I've been trying to do that as much as I can, and yeah,
Oh, nice.
make time to be able to do it.
I've always come on and off of learning how to play the guitar throughout my life. I don't know why it has never really like. It's like I go in periods of like 3 months. I get super into the guitar, and then I just like stop playing it. But I whenever I am practicing it and learning like new songs and whatnot, I really like how immersive it is to play an instrument. You
Mm-hmm.
literally forget about everything else that's happening. Like for the 1 hour or 2 hours where you're just like trying a new note or trying a new song.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the time just like goes like that, and it's like, oh my god, I've been like 3 hours playing the guitar. That was crazy. So yeah, I think it's an amazing thing to get into. I'm not sure how musical I am, but I just enjoy that, and I really enjoy doing karaoke. So don't have the best
Amazing.
voice ever, but I just like love to just like get in the microphone and then just sing along the songs.
Awesome. Well, I did not know that about you, Nico. We're gonna have to have a live performance someday.
Obviously.
But no, it's a great way to put it. I think playing instruments and music is so immersive um, and it's so good for your brain too. It's so good to help facilitate a lot of the neuroconnectivity and help us access other parts of our brain that remember songs and translate kind of that knowledge into actual physical playing of keys or playing of strings. And so it's something I've always enjoyed and wish I had more time to dedicate to it.
Yeah, and I think it's as what you just said. It's like this idea of like getting out of your head, and for piano it's just like getting into your fingers. In general, I think whenever I am experiencing a lot of anxiety or a lot of stress, like just like running a company, it's always gonna come up with these extra stress and extra anxiety. Whereas like whenever things get hard and get challenging, I think what's helped me a lot whenever I'm feeling like this is finding something that gets me out of my head. And
Mm-hmm.
in this case, it's like literally getting out of your head and getting into your fingers. But any practice that you can have that can literally kind of like shut down or like put like a blinder in the anxiety and all the thoughts that you're having. I've learned that is super powerful to just like be able to keep up and be able to just like cope with all the pressure that you are experiencing. So I wanted to ask you: do you have any other practice or any other it can be hobby that you have that helps you to get out of your head whenever you're experiencing just like a lot of stress or anxiety?
Yeah, so I think physical activity for me is really helpful. I sit at my computer now all day long on back-to-back Zoom calls, and so just removing myself from this, kind of virtual environment and going for long walks or doing yoga or just trying to be physical in some way. Um, Again, I think really helps me just get out of my head and like, kind of engage other parts of my being. Which to your point, I think redirects my attention and is helpful in just kind of dealing with and also putting in perspective just the work of the day or the challenges of the day or even the opportunities of the day, right? It's we can't always be focused on those things, and you have to find other ways to circulate new types of energy in and for me that's been a lot of just physical activity and movement over the years in different ways.
Yeah, I love that. Lauren, that brings me to my next question, and is um, throughout your life and throughout your career, what do you think has been one of the most challenging things that you faced? It can be a personal thing, or it can be something while building branch food and branch venture. Um, what comes to your mind whenever you think about that very challenging situation that you faced?
Yeah, I think there's been so many challenges over the years, as there are with starting something new and trying to build something that doesn't exist. I think that my inclination is to uh, keep changing, keep evolving, seeing an opportunity, pursuing an opportunity. And I think I've had to develop the discipline over the years of really kind of remaining focused, kind of sticking to that one thing. I've started now 3 different businesses: Branch Food, Branch Venture Group, and Food Edge. They're all, while all synergistic, they are very different businesses. Thankfully they're all doing well, but I'm always highly conscious of that shiny object syndrome, not getting distracted, being very kind of clear about what I'm doing, where I want to go, what I want to build, and directing time and effort and resources to those things. So I think it's something I've had to learn over time. I think I'm, constantly working on it, constantly trying to improve. But I think that focus is key in entrepreneurship, and it's been something that um, uh, has been a really big part of keeping me on track, um, and making sure that I'm building something. I'm not just starting a lot of different things.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, and it's very easy. I think whenever you're an entrepreneur, to get into that like shiny object syndrome. I think I also have a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to me more with like hobbies or new activities. Whenever I see like I read about triathlons and I say like, oh my god, I want to start training for a triathlon, or I want to start learning the guitar. So I think uh, the most valuable things for me have been always the ones that I have stick with, and having like the discipline to just like, okay, this is something that I don't want to do for 1 month or a couple months, but really being able to stick with that. What do you think can help you stay focused whenever you are uh, experiencing these thoughts of like just wanting to start a new thing or just wanting to start a new business? What do you think has helped you staying focused on, okay, I need to focus on building this thing?
I think it's having a strong sense of ultimately where I want to go and what I want to do. And recognizing that, maybe this really compelling opportunity that sprung up doesn't actually help me get there. Sometimes it may help you get there, and, it could be a really just opportunistic thing that, gets you closer to your goals. But ultimately, having a strong sense of that kind of end goal and where you're going and where you really see opportunity, I think can be a really helpful determinant of what you should give your time to and then what you shouldn't give your time to.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I agree. Awesome, Lauren. Thank you so much. I wanted to take also a moment to also thank you for everything that you do with Branchfood. I think eh, what I said at the beginning, it's real for Waku, that the connections that we've made through Branchfood and through Branch Venture were really pivotal for us as a company, because I remember clearly whenever we were just starting a company, and at the beginning it was literally me and Juan biking around Boston selling to every store that wanted to carry Waku at the beginning. Um, and we always remember that presentation that we had in front of the angel investment group. I remember, I think it was the end of September of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, that presentation, I remember that we came in with a cooler full of like cold Waku to that presentation. I remember that all the investors were a bit sleepy from the previous presentation because it was late in the day. I
Mm-hmm.
think, but this is one of the memories that I have most clearly from the journey of Waku, and just like going there, like having the opportunity to present the idea to all the investors. Um, and then we had like three of the investors came in and were like Marsha, James, and Marjorie, like were like pivotal for us having like the support of these great investors. And I think that was like one of the most important stepping stones to like really turning that idea to the next level and really having like a real company. And in general, that like being able to keep growing the company has allowed us to also keep creating a lot of impact in Ecuador and keep building this company. And I think that these connections that you make happen extend like a ripple effect in like all that the companies are doing like underneath. So it's just that amazing the work that you're doing. So I wanted to just thank you and tell you to just like keep doing what you're doing because you're killing it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nico. I very much appreciate that compliment. But it is our honor as well to work with companies like you, companies like Waku, and people like you and Juan. You're true entrepreneurs through and through. You guys are super hustlers, and it's been our honor to be able to participate in your story too. So thank you.
Thank you, Lauren, for the kind words. So before I let you go, is there anything else you would like to share with the audience? Any new project, or what is in the plate for you right now? What has you excited right now?
Yeah, so always last messages. We are very excited to be working on an industry membership for Branchfood. Over the years, we've had a lot of folks very interested in our work up kind of the food supply chain, though we haven't always had a great product for them. And so we're working on a really exciting opportunity for folks in the food industry, whether they be leaders of CPG companies, working on innovation within their company, working in R&D, to be able to interface with our startup community and our network of innovators. So more to come on that very soon. And yeah, if you're interested in the work of Branchfood, go to branchfood.com. If you're a startup raising funding or an investor in the space, go to branchventuregroup.com. And definitely keep Food Edge, our annual conference, which will be happening in May 2022, which you can learn more about at foodedge.co, as well, on your radar. So lots of different ways of staying in touch. Get on our newsletters, and we look forward to hopefully meeting you all in person one day when we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren, and thank you so much for coming to this interview.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Nico, and best of luck with the rest of this program.
Thank you so much. Bye. Have a great day.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. This is Nico again, and just a few more things before you take off. If you'd like to be part of the Waku tribe to be the first one to know about the launch of exclusive flavors, special promotions, and content about health and wellness, just go to livewaku.com, that's livewaku.com, and sign up for our email list. And if you sign up, I hope you enjoy being part of our community.